in the world. About to start
Besides
our
weird manufactured weather, it seems like. Yeah,
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot going on, brother.
Well, a lot of people don't really understand that weather warfare was it not outlawed in the 30s, and yet it's been used, especially with the deep state. But we are live on the Spencer Bennett page, and it's exciting to see you today, my man. We're gonna have a good show, folks. We're about to record for a deep dive that's aired nationally and streamed internationally as well. So, with all that said, without further ado, my friend Spencer, you want to go ahead and kick this off?
We'll kick it off in three, two, one. Hi, I'm Spencer Bennett, and I'm one of your hosts for the deep dive. And my co-host is
Brant Fricker, how you doing there, Spencer?
Brant. I'm doing good, my brother. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Never a dull moment, and really enjoying this weird weather situation we have going on here.
Well, you can enjoy it all you want. I can't stand it. I am not a winter baby. I'm a summer fall baby, brother.
Uh huh.
And yeah, this reminded me a lot of the winter of 2021.
Wow.
It's not like we don't have cold weather, and it's not like we don't have snow. It's just strange weather patterns and things like that that are just really make you think. And we've got another one on the way, they say, within the next week or so, maybe even into this weekend. So get ready, East Coast. You're going to get hit again. A lot of people without power, Brant. It's been terrible. Almost 50 people dead from this winter storm.
Yep. Yep. And interesting things with technical issues as well, but we've had more resistance than ever, but yet we are having more response than ever, Spencer. People are hungry for the truth, and they're calling things out. They're like, what's the point of being silent? And I'm happy to see that, because there is no point to being silent. We need to be speaking up. But pictures of people ice skating in their yards and streets all across this pattern. Of course, here on the mountaintop, I've never seen ice or snow not even indent when you walk on it. It's like a sheet of epoxy. It's very obvious that this is a manufactured thing in my mind, and people would do well to do their homework to know that this is nothing new. Especially
No,
during
our
previous
U.S.
generations.
government has over 200 patents, Brant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, what an interesting time. We these are the days that we've been talking about for years, Spencer, and wars and rumors of wars and pestilence and such. And I was live earlier today with Avi Lipkin, live in Israel, and talking about Iran. But folks, if you don't think there's a connection with everything, you're wrong. Everything is connected, and more than you perhaps want to know has been coordinated. And we're just told to stand our ground and to always be ready and to watch and pray.
Yeah. And boy, there's plenty to watch these days. The nation's focus, though we just got through removing a dictator from Venezuela, that's pretty much disappeared from the news. What President Trump did at the WEF and slapped them back down and told them it's going to be America first. Not many of them like that. Now they're looking to start trade relations with China, even our northern neighbor Canada, who I will remind everyone under the Trudeau government invited the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party, to do winter warfare exercises just north of our border, Brant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's not surprising either. I mean, we've known they've been in China's pocket for a long time, but we've never had a president like Trump who, back in his first term and now, is calling out NATO and the UN, and pretty much it really doesn't matter what they think. We're going to do what we need to do, but somehow I think that this president and the War Department, named appropriately, are ready and have been ready. It almost seems like Trump, love him or hate him, beyond the persona, is a very intelligent man, and he has made these calculations. He's had 4 years to do it before he had a fair election and is back. So I have a feeling they're 20 steps ahead of China, and they know exactly what they're doing, but they can't trust this mainstream media. that is owned by our enemies to properly report anything.
No, and you see the bias completely. I mean, if you were watching the shooting of the most recent
Mm-hmm.
shooting
Mm-hmm.
in Wisconsin and Minneapolis, CNN was caught live, lying about the entire thing using edited footage. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't play 30 seconds before that, where this individual, and I would say hours before that, where this individual who was shot was basically obstructing and impeding law enforcement for hours. And then all you saw was the tussle and the shots. Well, up to that point, they'd been trying to get him out of the street. The new video footage, new to them, I guess, now that their narrative has crumbled, shows that the police officer, the CBP or the Border
Mm-hmm.
Patrol officer, was trying to move some women out of the street who had come over to antagonize him. He didn't go reach over there and just start pushing them on the ground,
Right.
but that's all they showed. They came over to him with their whistles and assaulting him. I'm telling you, busted eardrums with whistles like that, that's no fun. But he got him out of the street, got him out of the way, and then this guy interfered. He was armed. Now, there's nothing wrong with being armed at a protest. I would recommend it. However, if you're armed and you're impeding law enforcement, that can lead to some bad conclusions. And in this case, he made some terrible life choices. His parents had told him, don't go messing with ICE.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go impeding with federal law enforcement. And he ignored his parents' advice and went armed and started doing just that for hours. For hours, he did that.
Well, he's paid to do that.
He's paid to do that. And, there's those people that push back, say, oh, they're not paid.
No,
Go watch the interviews. And specifically Laura Ingram's interview, where she was on the ground with some of these people. And they said, well, this is my job.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you're getting paid to do this. This is your job. Yeah, we got that. But there's still some people that refuse to believe it. They think this is just organic. And then this weekend, Brant, some citizen journalists,
Mm-hmm.
found out about Signal. Now, Signal is an app. You may remember recently when they tried to go after our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and said, oh, well, you use that Signal app. And somehow, it turns out one of our now as an ambassador, he got removed from his position at the Department of War. Basically, an Atlantic journalist got included on that Signal chat with some details about the strike against Iran. Well, now you've got, and this is the breaking thing that I think, and we're going to get into Tim Walz's phone call with Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But this came out, and it supposedly, I should say allegedly, implicates Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor, as organizing and giving these people information. Now, these people I'm talking about are these Marxist, socialist, communist agitators who are making it a point to interfere with ICE operations in Minnesota. Now, when you have a high-ranking government official, now that's the highest-ranking government official so far. We haven't got down to how much Tim Walz or his AG knew. But when you have a lieutenant governor of the state allegedly, I'm using my finger quotes here, allegedly involved in giving information to these socialist Marxist agitators, paid agitators, and it turns out, humorously, being paid for by a Canadian. That is what Data Republican is reporting. Now, Data Republican is a woman on X who has basically done deep dives, but she's also part of the Doge team.
Right.
And she does deep dives into these financial matters and thinks she's found who is responsible for funding these protests. And I'm going to say these insurrectionists, these enemy combatants, these people that are doing violence against our federal officials. They're being supported by foreign governments and foreign entities. And she is coordinating that. And the reason I say how serious this is, folks, having been in law enforcement, the citizen journalist was able to get on there and see where they were sharing license plate data on the make of the vehicle, who owned it, where it was, if they suspected it was an ICE vehicle. They shared that information on their signal, and then magically, somebody within the government, and I would say in law enforcement, made sure that they gave them the information about the vehicle. Now,
Right.
you can't do that. That's a big no-no. That's one of the rules that we are taught when we're police officers. You do not abuse this system. You don't get somebody's license plate just to see who it is. It's usually after you've pulled someone over and you check their license, make sure they don't have any warrants, things like that. But it was being used to track ICE agents. That's some pretty serious stuff, Brant.
It is, and it is terrorism. It's domestic terrorism, you know. People thought I was crazy when 16 years ago I'm going around the country, America, interviewing people who were wearing disguises because the terrorist organization, the DNC, were threatening their lives. They didn't believe it then. Good Lord. 16 years later, they're finally coming around now. And those of us who put our life on the line for our country and to tell the truth, for true journalism, you know, hey, hats off to you for sticking in there. But without a doubt, unfortunately, we are dealing with the dumbest generation in our history. And they've been dumbed down. They've allowed themselves to be dumbed down so that they couldn't see the truth if it hit them in the face, you know. We have
I would say, you know,
Yeah.
that's a benefit to law enforcement because these people are so dumb, they let somebody infiltrate their private chats in this
Right.
Signal group. And then all that information was released. And now a lot of these people are in hiding and on the run because they've been implicated in felonious activities, which can be prosecuted by RICO. And I would say, Brant, be watching because of two deaths. If these two deaths of these two individuals in Minnesota
Right.
can be connected to this Signal chat where they were getting their information, then the lieutenant governor, if that's her, if the lieutenant governor was part of this chat, she can be charged with murder. Because a conspiracy where crimes are committed and someone dies, well, the accomplices can be charged with murder. Well, that kind of throws a different spin on everything, doesn't it?
Well, it does. The question is, where will these people be arrested and held where a liberal, communist, leftist judge won't release them?
Well, that's the great point, isn't it? And I think that's why we haven't been seeing the arrests that we are all demanding,
Right.
whether that's James Comey for basically telling Congress to go pound sand, whether it is Adam Schiff or Letitia James, who are allegedly guilty of mortgage fraud. No, the judge just lets them off. Or these people that invaded a church. Now, I don't know about you, Brant, but if this had happened in your state or in my state, someone kicking open the doors and invading your church and interrupting your worship service for their political, something might happen to them. They may rush to room temperature.
Well, I would say that, you know, and interesting. They don't try this in Texas. They try this in places that are anti-gun and liberal leftist places. You know, it would be interesting to see. It really, really would. You know, all of a sudden it's okay for a white man to have a gun to the liberals. I mean, but see, here's the thing.
It's funny. They're all about the Second Amendment now, isn't it?
Oh yeah. And now they don't know what a woman. Now they know what a woman is. Well, it's not stupidity. It's just evil and it's corruption, and they don't care. And when you're dealing with mindless animals, the only thing they understand is a loss of money and a loss of life. And they want that, you know. They love Hamas. Well, Hamas is part of them. Have you seen the video clip of the Islamist that said, when I was a radical Islamist, I was afraid of the conservatives because they have morals. And I consider the leftists so stupid because we know that the leftists have no values or morals or principles. And we love to vote left. He said, I challenge you to find an Islamist who voted for Trump because they have morals and values. The conservatives do, and they're not easily brainwashed, you know. But we also have traitors within our ranks too. We have people.
We do. We have a lot of rhinos. I mean, if you look at let's just take my state, for example, Texas,
Yeah.
where you have people who have been complicit in allowing charter schools to be Islamified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, I mean, it's a great word for it. The
Islamify.
Islamization of Texas is still ongoing, and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick seems to be involved in that. Governor Greg Abbott, his office made sure that funds years ago went to Islamist charities. This is a problem. We already know what their agenda is. They are riding on the back of the Democrats because communism and Islamists like to partner up
Sure they do.
because they reach their goals. But then what the communists don't understand is though they're basically the useful idiots they use their ground soldiers for, and they'll be deleted when the Islamists take power. But we have right now, and the main concern besides Islam in this country is this communist, socialist, Marxist group of young people. Not very big. It's not a big group. The media would like you to think that, oh, Minnesotans feel this way. No, they don't. No, they don't. They're pretty laid back, which is why you haven't seen a lot of counter protests. But
Right.
at some point, Minnesota, you're going to have to take your state back instead of relying on the Trump administration and the rest of the country to cheer you on to do it. We'd like to see that happen. But you stolen elections have consequences. Voting for Democrats have consequences. If you look at the state of Tennessee right now, they've got Spamberger in there. And this woman lied to everyone to get elected. And now she is implementing policies that are truly dystopian. They're going to tax everybody to death. They're going to do away with gun rights if they can. And they're basically, restricting Christianity. They're promoting abortion. This is what happens when you vote for Democrats. Democrats should never, ever, ever, ever be allowed the reins of power because they've been taken over by this radical socialist ideology that hates God, hates this country, and wants to see it burn to the ground. And they are the useful idiots. And then you've got the power players, and you've got people in other countries. I would say NATO, and as I've said it before, Brant, NATO is not our friend. Many of the countries wouldn't pay their fair share. Now that we want to take over a territory that we have been protecting since 1941, they get all bent out of it. They won't defend it against Russia, but they'll defend it against Trump and the United States. You have people like Mark Carney in Canada, who is trying to do trade deals with China. And Mark Carney's not the brightest bulb in the tree. He is a globalist. He is a globalist. But he's trying to make deals with China and invite China in so they can bring their cheap goods into Canada and then pump them into our country and ruin our industrial base. And President Trump basically said, if you want to play this game, if you want an agreement with China, tell you what we'll do. We'll put 100% tariff back on you.
Yep.
Well, that stopped that pretty quick. But the Western, if we're just going to jump all over the globe, let's talk about Western Canada. Alberta and many of the Western provinces are ready to secede from Canada. And whether that means independence or it means being the 51st state of America, they are all in. They are all in on that. That's something the news is not reporting. But if you go up and you pull up any of the media or even social media, I would say better, in the Western provinces, they're not happy. They don't like the communists, the CC paid actors in Ontario, Canada. So what you're seeing is a dismantling, folks, of other countries' influence in this hemisphere. Those include China and Russia. When we went into Nicaragua, Colombia, better pay attention. We're focusing on Cuba because they have held, the communists have held a foothold in Cuba much longer than they should have.
Right.
That's going to be cleaned out. But then what is the other country that's in our hemisphere that is not under our influence and is instead under a influence that is diametrically opposed to a constitutional republic? And if you guess Canada, you win because they're under the crown. And they, yeah.
Which I knew that, but when you put it in context like that, we haven't heard much from the new King of England. Not directly, but he's pretty vocal on the global stage right now, and has been. And
He can be good for him. Get on a stage somewhere else, but stay away from us. Stay out of our business. Stay out of our hemisphere. President Trump basically laid down the law in Europe. When you understand the Rothschilds connection and the Illuminati families and their connection to the royals and the breeding line that is consistent with that, and you start looking at pictures of old man Rothschild, and then you start checking out pictures of certain royals, they look a lot alike. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now.
Well, hey, I mean, you do know that Prince Charles, now King Charles, likes to spend time in his inherited castle from his relative Vlad the Impaler. And yeah, we could talk for years on that and other concerning things regarding children and such. But we live in an evil world, and yesterday's conspiracy theories, tomorrow's headlines, folks. There really is good and evil. There really is a battle between good and evil. And the media really is your enemy. They're not your friends. And yet, amazingly, Spencer, we're able to operate in media, but we also are associated with media that we're allowed to speak the truth. And even then, but there's some things that are just so heavy, that just verify that these are the days we read about. But we have a promise. We don't have to fear. And we were born in this season for a reason. And so apparently God thought your soul was up to the task. And here we are.
And here we are. What we're seeing is a dismantling of the criminal old world cabal. And it's happening in countries in Europe, not only in the United States, though our focus is mainly on getting it destroyed here, and it needs to be destroyed and burned to the ground.
Right.
To protect our republic. We're going to expose this fraud. It's been ongoing. We're going to expose a lot of crimes that have been committed, crimes against humanity.
Right.
And we're also going to, and I believe President Trump is working with several other leaders and military leaders to dismantle this cabal and its grip that they've had on this world for centuries. We have a little time left. I think the Lord has given us just a little bit of time. Now the Lord can return at any time to come get us, and I'm okay with that. But I'm also sure that we've only been given a short window of time to make a difference. And that means making a difference in the world, but more specifically in our country, and more specifically in our communities, in our state, and in our families. And we have to get right, because when that trumpet blows, we're out of here. And we need to be ready for that. We need to be dragging a lot of people with us. And that's the main goal of what God has told us to do, be fishers of men, bring a lot of people. As one organization says, let's make heaven crowded. Let's do that. Let's bring a lot of people with us when we go.
Instead of increasing the population of hell.
Thank you.
I've been writing a new book called False Prophet, and it's the word prophet marked out, and prophet, P-R-O-F-I-T. And a lot of things are being exposed right now. And so, I'm not being silent either. This is a time to lovingly correct, but to be bold and fearless and speaking the truth to people. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people being led astray and being exploited. And it only gives the enemy ammunition for that. But with all that said, we are told to watch and pray. And we talk a lot about prayer, but we don't talk a lot about watching. A lot of people don't want to know what's going on. And a lot of people just don't care. But we're speaking to those of you who care. And you want to know what's happening. That's why it's important. Listen to newstalkkcrs.com and download the app. I've got the app on my phone, and ICA radio app. You can download that and listen to Spencer in the mornings. And of course, patriotsinAction.com. You need to be aware of what's happening in your precinct. If we return power to the local level, we have a chance of keeping our country.
But we can't do it, Brand, if only 12 people vote. And what people in my community are finding out
Yeah.
is when only 12% of people vote, they get the government they deserve. And what they're finding out right now, locally,
Right.
even, is there's fees and charges being put on their water bill, Brant,
Yep.
that it should be considered a tax. And when people went to the city council meeting, they were basically ignored. They'd already made up their mind. They're going to keep this thing there because they're supporting the education system that just passed a several billion-dollar bond, which was a little sketchy in itself. It's failed before, but you have many large companies that pushed for that and got their employees to vote for that. And then, do you think those big companies, if the oil boom busts, are going to stick around? No, they're not. They're going to leave us with the tab of billions of dollars. And it wasn't even planned out right. There's a lot of sketchy stuff that's going on in my own city government that we try to expose. But it's your job, folks, to expose the correct. Here's what's great, Brant. I put out a post and I said, if you want to see a change in your community, pray for the corruption to be exposed. Not 2 days later, this story broke.
Wow.
And this is what's going to happen in your community. People have to know just how bad it is. It's not just the federal government. It's not just state governments. It's city governments. It's people in your own community that are stealing from you, that you may look up to, but they have other interests at heart. Use your discernment. Get out and vote. This is going to be one of the most important elections, and we say that all the time. Last election that we had back in 2024 was pretty darn important. This one's even more important. We've got to get out and vote, Brant.
You can't let the communists, the jihadists, the Luciferians take back ground in 2026. You can't do that. You got to vote, folks. You have nobody to blame but yourself. And you're smarter than that. Stupid people who vote for a living, they don't care about taxes. They don't pay them. They don't care about inflation. They just load their EBT card. But people that, and not everyone who has one of those cards or is having assistance is stupid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the demographic that appeals to the left and that they pander to, most of them are so out of touch. Inflation doesn't affect them because they get a free ride. But for those of us who work for a living, you got to vote, and you got to let your voice be heard. Well, my vote doesn't matter. Well, actually it does. If you don't, someone else is going to get it. And people show up and they've already voted, but they didn't know it because of corruption. Well, we got to get back to paper ballots. Anyone can cheat on the voting machines. We're the only country still stupid enough to use them. And do you really want your vote going through Venezuela and through China and all that before it gets back? Come on, folks. Do your homework. So things are being positioned. I have faith that our administration knows what they're doing. And we have bad apples on both sides. But one side is championing this anti-God, anti-country, anti-family, anti-woman, anti-child, anti-man, anti-Christian, anti-white, and anti-conservative, the enemy of all humanity. You're going to let them get the House and Senate? You're going to vote. I bet Iranians right now wish that they had the freedom we have, because the left wants to disarm us like the Iranians were. Look what's happened to them. 68,000 now? Massacred?
A lot.
And now the left is stupid enough to say what they want to do. So, hey, vote like your life depends on it, because it does. And arm up and train up and stand with those who believe the way you do. And you have a chance to get our country back. So that's what we should do. And that is a powerful deep dive, my man.
Well, until next time then, we love you. God bless you.